everyone, and welcome to a new segment called Tim Talks Music. I'm Tim Butler, and today we have a special treat for you. The other day, I had the pleasure of interviewing Chris Ballew from Presidents of the United States of America and Casper Baby Pants. Chris's music defined the 90s alt-rock music era on MTV with his hit songs like Lump and Peaches. So, I hope you enjoy my interview with Chris Ballew. So I knew you grew up in Seattle. What was your first music experience or influence growing up there?
Very first one was taking a hammer and banging on an upright piano as a tiny toddler.
Oh,
I barely remember it, but people told me that's what I did. And later, when I was learning piano on that same piano, I noticed all the divots from the hammer hitting the piano. So that was my first experience. But really, the first influential experience was listening to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. I had that from the time I was about 3 until I was about 10. That was the only record I listened to. I didn't even know there were other records by the Beatles. I didn't even know there were other records by anybody. And the sort of psychedelic journey that record took me on as a little kid made me want to write my own songs and create my own journey in the form of albums through songwriting. So yeah, that record really turned me on.
now when did you professionally start playing in music in Seattle?
The first professional gig I had was actually being a band member for Beck in 1994 when he got signed. I had a friend who shared a publisher with Beck, and she introduced me to him, and we got along, and I moved to LA and lived with him for a while and toured with him. So that was my first time getting an actual paycheck for making music. And then the rock band, the Presidents, had already started, and then I went off and played with Beck and got real paid and all that, and did a couple tours, and then came back and restarted the Presidents after that break. And that quickly turned into a professional job for sure. So yeah, but
Awesome.
Beck was the first one.
And you lived with Beck, right?
Yeah, I was the only band member when he was putting this band together to tour on Mellow Gold that was not from LA. So he very graciously allowed me to live with him, which was extremely cool of him. And we had some good fun times.
Was he a good roommate?
Yeah, I felt like it was his house. I was the roommate, but yeah, he was a good roommate. It was everybody who lived there was delightful. At the time, I was really into this Xeroxed little magazine, or they called them zines back then, called Dishwasher. And it was a guy who made his way around the country, either professionally or just as a way of keeping the entropy up in a social situation. He would do the dishes. So I was the dish doer in that house, and that was my sort of way of keeping the I don't know, the entropy up is the best way to say it. I don't know another metaphor for entropy up, but that was what I did. So yes.
So what was it like playing on the streets of Boston in Egg?
Oh, egg. That was so fun. I loved doing that. I've always had kind of a DIY, do-it-yourself attitude about waiting around for permission to be a musician. And busking was the first time I did it in Seattle. I just felt like this is it, because I don't have to wait for somebody to like the band and book the band and wait for a gig and then do the gig. And it's so pressurized that way. But just picking up my guitar and going down to the subway in Boston and playing for a few hours was a way to it really helped me write songs that would stop a busy person in a subway station and make them listen, which was a really great lesson in how to actually literally hook someone with a hook.
Right.
So it was super informative and a real great proving ground for song ideas. I loved it. And eventually we got seen by this guy, Billy Ruane, in Boston. He invited us to play at this club called the Middle East, and that the playing in the subway kind of led to playing on actual stages for Billy's weird Sunday afternoon parties.
So who do you think was a better triple bass guitar band, Balls or Spinal Tap?
Well, I'd have to say Spinal Tap, Balls was so informal. In fact, that record that we made, I think it's only available on vinyl. Mark Brooks, one of the bass players, recorded that on a handheld little cassette tape thing without us even knowing it. And he made that record and he took care of all that stuff. So it was so casual. We didn't even know we were making a record when we made that record. So I'd have to say Spinal Tap wins the day.
Okay. Now, what
Good,
was
good, really good question, though. I can tell you've done your homework.
Thank you. What was it like playing with Mark Sandman and Morphine? Did he influence you to play the bass guitar?
Oh, absolutely. I would not be doing the two and three string thing without Mark's influence for sure. In fact, that red guitar behind me it's set up as a six string right now, but it was a two string when Mark had it. And it was the first time I picked up a guitar and played two string and went, "Oh yeah, this is it. This is what I've been kind of going for." Or I've been sliding that direction already. I had a little tiny acoustic and I broke a couple strings and I just didn't have the money to replace them. So I was playing a four string at the time. And then Mark turned me on to two. And yeah, Mark's influence is huge, huge, huge. In fact, I have right here in my studio at eye level a picture of Mark in his studio when
Wow.
we were recording in 1998 for a movie that he was working on. And um, so he's kind of hovering. In fact, I'm working on a song about my memories about Mark. So
Nice.
he's very present all the time in my life and in my mind. And so yeah, wouldn't have discovered the joy of that particular option of two strings without Mark. So I miss him all the time.
So you performed many shows with the presidents of the United States of America, and I believe your most notable performance is performing at Mount Rushmore. What was that experience like, and how did you end up performing there?
That was crazy. MTV called Columbia Records apparently. It was just like, we want to give the presidents 30 minutes of airtime to do whatever they want. And we concocted this idea of, or I guess the label and the people at MTV concocted the idea of playing at Mount Rushmore. That was a spooky experience in a way because we were in San Francisco. We'd been on tour and we were in San Francisco and we were going to take a commercial flight to North Dakota. Is it in North Dakota? South Dakota? I can't remember, but
South, maybe, I think.
South. Okay. But a big fog bank came in and shut down the airport in San Francisco. So we're stuck in San Francisco. People are there, ready to roll. The cameras, everything is happening, but we're not there. So the talk became, let's get a little plane, a little like, let's, rent a plane and fly ourselves. And of course, I'd seen the Buddy Holly story and I knew the story of Buddy Holly and how you just got to get to the next gig in a tiny plane and boom, you're dead. So I don't know. I'd always had this sort of like, you know, Buddy Holly is a warning kind of thing in the back of my mind. And so I was kind of freaked out like, I don't want to get on a tiny jet plane and fly through fog to try to play a show, but we made it and everything was fine. And that show was interesting because it was cold and there were these heaters in the stage blowing hot air. And they were positioned where we were standing at our microphones. But if we stood over that hot air and played for a while and then went away from the hot air to kind of rock out or do something, the cold air would make our guitars go out of tune.
Oh, yeah.
So we actually had to retrack 4 songs because we were so out of tune. It's just terrible. So that was kind of a, behind the scenes fix that we had to do. Other than that, it was just a whirlwind, and I barely remember it.
So here's a rapid fire question for you. My favorite cover that you guys did was Kick Out the Jams. What's yours?
I think it's Kick Out the Jams, but followed ever so closely, or maybe beaten ever so closely by Video Killed the Radio Star.
Yeah, that's a great
Making
one.
that song our own and having a video for it and having it be in the Adam Sandler movie. We loved Adam Sandler at the time, so I mean, when that song came out on the radio in the 80s, I loved it so much. If it came out and I was driving, I had to pull over if it came on the radio because I was overcome with pop music satisfaction.
I heard you on the wireless back in 52, lying awake intently tuning in.
I deeply loved that song. So making it our own was a real pleasure. And same with Kick Out. I mean, Kick Out the Jams. I got a whole story about that, but it's too long to go into a rapid fire. But it was a magical experience getting to know the actual surviving members of the MC5
Mhm.
because we covered it, and I had a real nice friendship with Wayne Kramer for a long time, so that was beautiful. Okay, sorry, rapid fire, go.
Okay, so this one's more of like you can speak as long as you want, but how did
Okay.
you get how did you get to do the theme song for the Drew Carey show?
Oh, we were on Rosie O'Donnell had a talk show, daytime talk show, kind of like Ellen or that kind of thing. And we were a musical guest on her show. And by the way, she was a great drummer. She got
Oh,
up on
really?
Jason's kit and just took a solo, and it was amazing. And yeah, backstage, for some reason, the backstage area of that show were a series of little trailers, and we were in one, and there's a knock on the door, and it was Drew Carey, who was also on the show that day, and he came in with a supermodel on each arm, and we hung out for a while and got along. And then a while later, he got back in touch with us and was like, I want to spruce up the intro to the show and re-record the theme song, and I want you guys to do it. And we did it, and it was great. And he can be heard at the end of the song going, "Ohio, Ohio, Ohio." That's Drew phoning in that little moment. Um, so that was fantastic, and that opened my eyes to how financially doing a theme song for a show can be a great way to make money without going on tour. And that started me on like a 15-year odyssey to do music for commercials and TV shows and licensing for background music and that kind of stuff. So I did that on the side for a long time because of Drew Carey.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, how did you meet and work with Sir Mix-a-Lot?
Oh boy. So there was an idea to do an album. Some label came up with this idea to do an album of Seattle bands, unlikely pairings covering other Seattle bands. So Mix-a-Lot got contacted by these people, and the idea was that Sir Mix-a-Lot and the Presidents would do a Jimi Hendrix song. So we got together to have dinner, the band and Mix, and Mix's manager, and we just got along so well and had a great time and talking about music and, having similar ideas and theories and approaches to what makes songs great. And we decided, you know what? Let's not do a Jimi Hendrix song. Let's make up our own song. So we did a couple, and that led to a couple more and a couple more. And pretty soon we had an album's worth of songs, and we went on a West Coast tour. But it's sort of the whole project kind of collapsed under the weight of its own expectations. We had kind of a disastrous show in Seattle where Dave's amp broke, and things went kind of haywire, and everybody was at that show to be like, "What's this all about?" And we kind of dropped the ball a little bit, so it kind of disintegrated a little. But we have an album done, and we just have never been able to agree on how to release it or to release it at all or whatever. But Anthony's a great human being and a really talented engineer, musician, songwriter. It was a thrill to work with him.
Okay. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. How did you start making children's music?
Oh yeah. So the whole time the presidents were going on, I was feeling this kind of gut feeling that I was not finished searching for my sort of musical voice, that the band was great. Congratulations, everything's cool, but that's not the end of your line. So I just started listening to that voice and experimenting outside the band for years and years and years. About 10 or 12 years it took me to kind of finally find this chemistry that made me go, ah, that's it. That's what this kind of acoustic, intimate, funny, innocent thing that I kind of got inspired by my wife's art, actually. Her artwork had all the attributes that I hoped this music I was looking for would have. And so I made a couple songs inspired by her art, and I went, oh yeah, it's kids music. That's what I should have been doing the whole time. Or that's what I kind of was doing. I always thought of it like a planet, like the core of the planet of the presidents was this innocence. And then on the outer crust was innuendo and kind of double entendres and stuff. And so if you just took those away, you'd have the innocent core, and that's what Casper was. So I was real close to the answer the whole time, but I just didn't see it. And so that created a creative volcano that went on for 12 years. I made 19 albums and played 1,300 shows, and And finally, during the pandemic, I was just like, I think I'm done. I think I'm going to move on. So that was a great arc, and yeah, so that's how I came to that.
Is there a significance behind the name Casper Baby Pants?
Back when I was playing with Mark and I was playing that instrument, the red guitar, we had a band called Supergroup, and we would make up songs on the spot. And I had been making weird little cassettes under the name Casper for a while. And then in the winter in Boston, I had no hat, no winter hat, and I went to a food co-op that had a bin of clothes for the needy, and I was needy. And I pulled out a hand knitted pair of baby's pants, put them on my head, and it was a perfect winter hat. So the kids in my neighborhood, as I walked from the subway to my house where I was living with Mark, um, would call me Baby Pants. They'd be like, "What's up, Baby Pants?" And so I put Casper and Baby Pants together. And back in the early 90s, I was Casper Baby Pants in the supergroup band with Mark playing that instrument. So when I went to do kids' music, I was like, what am I going to call it? Do I make up a band name? Do I use Chris Ballew? And then I remembered I'm already Casper Baby Pants. I'll just be Casper Baby Pants. Yeah.
So you have a new album coming out, right?
Yeah, I kind of always have a new album coming out these days. It's album number 8 of this arc of albums I'm doing just under my name, solo records that are um, kind of poppy. I call it pop cosmic. It's kind of a pop framework, but it's kind of spacey and cosmic. So that's pop cosmic is my new style.
Now, are there any projects that you're excited about that you're looking forward to in the future?
No. I'm really like retired. I'm not really interested in performing anymore. I kind of realized when the pandemic hit and I couldn't perform that I was like, oh, that's kind of relaxing to not be under pressure that way. And it
Yeah,
may come back eventually, but for now, I'm just, yeah, the project I'm looking forward to doing is more Chris Ballew records, more solo records. I've got tons of songs brewing for future albums in that genre, in that, avenue. And just putting those out for fun. Really, it's like I'm a musical hobbyist now. I'm like a guy building chairs in his garage on the weekends. They're beautiful chairs. Nobody wants the chairs, but I'm building the chairs. And so, yeah, I'm just looking forward to doing more of that and just being with my friends and family. And I live on an island and it's beautiful. And I'm just enjoying nature and people and time.
that's, and I almost forgot a question. I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
Weird Al. What was it like
Mm.
having Lump parodied by him?
Oh, unbelievable. I mean, to have Weird Al play me, having grown up watching MTV and, that feeling like not only did it feel like as a musician I would never enter that realm, that, I couldn't bust through the glass ceiling into that arena of professionalism, but, you know, Weird Al was so hilarious. And, you always remember the songs he covered. It immortalized the songs that he covered. So to have been immortalized like that was amazing. Now, there was a funny thing that happened. I was on a podcast a couple of years ago with some other people who had been parodied by Al or knew Al, and a question came up like, where were you when you first saw the video for the song that he did about, of the video he did of your song? And I was like, you know what? I don't remember. I can't picture where I was. Hotel room? I don't know. And then I was talking to Al and I said that. I was like, I got asked this question and I couldn't remember. And he's like, you can't remember? And then he tells me that he and I were on a tour bus, I think President's tour bus, outside of a gig in LA. And he had attended the gig and it was post gig. And we're just the two of us in the bus. And he plays the video for me, and I see it for the first time with him in the room. And he remembers it because it's the only time he ever debuted a video for the artist while being in the same room with that artist. So he was all nervous. He was like, I hope he likes it, so he remembered it, and I did not. And that is so phenomenal. Can you imagine not remembering being on
Yeah.
a tour bus? There's so much to forget. It's incredible. So yeah, but he is still a good friend. I just saw him in LA like last year. We had dinner and hung out, and he's just a fantastic human being, a real good friend, great listener, and just a dear man.
And you performed Peaches with him on stage recently, right?
Oh yeah, we've crashed each other's shows over and over and over. Like we've done so much with him. We did we did the parody of Lump one time in LA. Another time in LA we did More Than a Feeling by Boston, and he played accordion, and I had a fan at the time keeping me cool on stage, and he took over my mic, and the fan was blowing his hair. You can find it online. It's a terrible recording, but it's kind of great that it's terrible. It's kind of explosive and crazy, and but yeah, and then here in Seattle, when he was on his ridiculously self-indulgent tour, they would have an artist from whatever city they were in show up, or they would cover. They wouldn't have artists necessarily, but they would cover a song by a band from that city that they were in, and they did Peaches, and then the gag was I came out halfway through the song and you know joined them. So, but yeah, we've done lots of show crashing over the years.
That's But so thank you again for doing this. And to end off the interview, do you have any short words for any up and coming musicians or young musicians like me that you would like to say?
Yeah, I would. Basically, please yourself and find pleasure in doing as much work toward making whatever you're doing, songs, um, the best they can be. Because at the end of the day, you may not find success, but you would find satisfaction if you've poured your heart and your effort into something being as good as you can make it. And don't shy away from the hard work. Because then at least when you're older, you can kick back and put on your music and be proud. And at best, it resonates with other people because you've poured your love into it. And then people gather around you because you are embodying love. And then you're successful. But imagining success or that being your motivation, achievement like that is only going to get in the way of your present focus on the joy of creative activity. Whew, I didn't know how that sentence was going to end when I started.
Well, that was awesome. But thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks again, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. I love helping out in this way. It's very satisfying. And Timmy, I got to say, you're a great interviewer. You're really well researched, great questions. I've been interviewed by a lot of people, and you're in the top 10 for sure.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate that.
Great.
All right, keep up the good work, and thanks for having me. And
Thank you.
see you on the flip side.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. See ya.
See ya.